Chicago winters nip with a harsh bite. And for Emily Carter, each wintry morning is a test of will. She's a nurse who's witnessed it all, but no preparation can get her ready for the storm gathering at home. How does the person you trust the most keep secrets behind false smiles? Emily Carter clocked in her time card at Chicago General Hospital, her muscles screaming from the night shift. The emergency room had been bedlam. 2 heart attacks, a stroke, and an emergency procedure that came close to disaster. Her fingers still shook from the adrenaline of keeping a patient's life intact. The nursing station hummed with the early morning shift change, the whir of monitors, and weary voices overlapping. "Great work, Emily," Linda Harper, the head nurse of the night shift, offered her a warm shoulder pat. "You kept your head out there." Emily forced a tired smile, the hazel of her eyes expressing a decade of commitment to this hectic hospital. "Thanks, Linda, we made it somehow." She changed into a warm sweater and jeans in the locker room, the material a small consolation against the chill. Her phone flashed with a message from her husband, Michael. "Early start at work. Can you take Noah to school? Sarah stayed up late, so let her sleep. Love you." A shiver of worry ran through her as she replied, "No problem, love you too." Michael, a real estate salesman, had been leaving for work earlier and returning later for weeks now. He attributed it to a sizzling market and fussy clients, but his apologies sounded like lines from a script he wasn't quite ready with. Emily brushed off the impression, believing him, or at least attempting to. She wedged into her hulking old sedan, its heater roaring in protest against the frozen Chicago air. Snowflakes waltzed across her windshield, delicate prisms reflecting the anemic morning light. Their suburban 2-story home, bought a decade ago when they were newlyweds, stood quiet as she pulled into the driveway. Inside, the smell of coffee lingered, and her son Noah's voice broke the silence. "Hey Mom, you're back." The 12-year-old sat at the kitchen table, a bowl of cereal half-eaten. His math homework sprawled out like a battlefield. Emily kissed his forehead, her heart warming despite her exhaustion. "Morning, Noah, how's the homework going?" He groaned, pushing a worksheet toward her. "Math's kicking my butt, but I'm almost done." Noah was sharp, acing science and history, but numbers always tripped him up. Emily sat beside him, guiding him through fractions, her nurse's precision translating to patience with his struggles. "Where's Dad?" Noah asked, his spoon clinking against the bowl. "Off to work early, said he's got a big client." Noah's eyes flashed, as if he were about to speak but didn't. Emily picked up on it, her stomach nodded slightly, but she didn't press. Kids his age became moody, right? Most likely just puberty kicking in. "How's Aunt Sarah doing?" she asked, looking toward the stairs. Noah shrugged. "Still asleep, I guess. Dad said she was up late." Emily's sister Sarah had come to live with them 5 months ago after a vicious divorce. Her cheating ex-husband had broken her, and Emily wanted to give her time to mend. "Ready for school?" Emily glanced at the clock, her tone soft but firm. Noah nodded, shoving his homework into his backpack and putting on his jacket. She gave him a turkey sandwich for lunch. "Have a good day, and come home directly from school, okay?" "Yeah, Mom, but I may work late to study with Jake," Noah replied, tossing his bag across his back. He lingered at the door, flashing a grin. "Did you know that there are people who make thousands posting stories on the internet? I'm doing it too." Emily smiled, embracing him hard before he rushed out to catch the bus. She cleaned the kitchen and then walked up the stairs and tapped gently on Sarah's door. Nothing. She pushed it open, hoping to find her sister under blankets. The bed was made, the room vacant. Emily scowled. Sarah wasn't a morning person, not in recent days. Her phone in her hand, thumb poised over Sarah's number, she hesitated. Sarah was 32, not a child. She didn't need a nanny. Tired, Emily fell onto bed, the night shift reclaiming her in sleep. But her brain wouldn't quit. Michael's late nights, Sarah's strange disappearances, Noah's withdrawn silences, they plagued her like a puzzle with missing pieces. She reassured herself it was nothing, just life's typical mess. Her family was well. They must be. 3 weeks passed before Emily sat in the hospital cafeteria, nibbling at a sandwich during lunch. Her co-worker, Rachel Brooks, slipped into the booth opposite her, placing a steaming coffee in front of herself. "Emily, you all right? You look as if you haven't slept in weeks." Emily smiled, her eyes tired. "I'm okay, just really busy." But she wasn't all right. At home, the air seemed off, like a storm brewing just beyond reach. Michael had begun to carry his phone around with him, looking at it anxiously, locking it when she approached too closely. "Work stress," he'd claim, but his eyes would avoid hers. Rachel took a sip of her coffee, her eyes piercing. "How's home life? Sarah still crashing on you?" "Yeah, she's still here," Emily replied, stirring soup. "She's been better. Upbeat, shopping for new clothes, seeing friends a lot." She'd remembered last week when she'd asked Sarah why she looked so radiant all of a sudden. "Just trying to move on," Sarah replied with a forced smile, avoiding the question. Rachel leaned forward, her voice low. "Emily, is everything okay? You're not yourself." Emily hesitated, her fork suspended in mid-air. "Do you know something I don't?" Rachel shifted uncomfortably, her eyes flicking away. "No, just worried about you." But there was a weight to her words that made Emily's stomach roil. She thought of Noah, who'd quit talking about his day, going to his room after school. Last night, she'd caught him sitting on his bed, staring at his phone. "Noah, what's wrong?" she'd asked, sitting beside him. He'd shrugged, looking away. "Nothing, Mom. Just tired." But his tone was petulant, and when she asked him again, he muttered, "I don't understand adult things." "Adult things," she'd repeated, bewildered. He'd shut up, leaving her with more questions than answers. Later in the cafeteria, Rachel's voice broke her out of her reverie. "Emily, even the doctors commented. You nearly confused patient charts yesterday." Emily's face flushed. It was so. She'd almost charted meds for the wrong patient, one Dr. Thompson caught just in time. "I'm sorry, I'll pay attention," she said, her voice strained. Rachel covered her hand on the table. "If there's something bothering you, tell me. You don't have to deal with it alone." Emily longed to tell her everything. Her reservations about Michael, Sarah's odd behavior, Noah's silence, but the words stuck in her throat. How could she explain a feeling she didn't understand? "I'm okay, just need some rest," she lied, forcing another smile. That evening, as she prepped for another night shift, Michael texted that he'd be late again. Emily asked Sarah to handle Noah's dinner. "No problem, Em," Sarah chirped, her voice almost too bright. Emily paused, watching her sister apply lipstick in the hallway mirror, a new scarf draped over her shoulders. She looked happy. Too happy. At the hospital, Linda tugged her aside at the beginning of the shift, her face stern. "Emily, we need to talk." They ducked into the silence of a secluded corner of the nursing station, the hospital's hum receding. Linda's voice was barely above a whisper. "It's about Michael." Emily's heart hammered, her breath stuck. "What about him?" Linda looked around nervously. "Last weekend, I saw him at the mall with Sarah." Emily stilled, her thoughts racing. "With Sarah?" she whispered, her voice hardly above a breath. Linda nodded, looking at her with sympathy in her eyes. "They were close, Emily. Holding hands, laughing, like they didn't have a care in the world." The words are a blow, knocking the air out of her. Emily clutches at the counter, her world spinning. She'd sensed the cracks in her family, but this? Her husband and her sister. It was a betrayal she could not erase, and the fragments, Michael's deceptions, Sarah's radiance, Noah's enigmatic remark, began to fit together. Emily's tone remained calm, though her heart thudded with a drumming in her chest. "Thank you, Linda, for letting me know." The evening shift at Chicago General Hospital that night was a haze, her brain mired in a turmoil of betrayal. She progressed through patient charts and forechecks on autopilot, her hands firm but her mind whirling. How could Michael and Sarah betray her like this? Should she go after them now, or wait, get evidence, then think what to do next? The idea of her family, her husband, her sister, her boy Noah. Breaking apart because of lies filled her with revulsion. A harsh voice crackled through the hospital intercom at 2:17 a.m. Code Blue, Trauma Bay 3. Code Blue, Trauma Bay 3. Emily's training took over, and she raced down the hallway, her sneakers squeaking on the waxed floor. The emergency room was a whirlwind of organized chaos. Doctors bellowing orders, nurses darting through gear, monitors screaming. 3 car crash victims critical. A pale young resident shouted. A sedan hit a tree off I-94. Emily dove into the work, taking vitals and preparing a crash cart, but her concentration faltered. Her phone vibrated in her pocket, an unusual distraction on duty. She'd usually let it go, but a midnight call sent a shiver down her spine. She ducked into a corner and picked up. Mrs. Carter. A gruff voice asked, soothing but official. This is Officer Daniels. Your husband, sister, and son were in an accident. They're en route to Chicago General now. The world stopped. Emily's knees buckled, her phone nearly slipping from her hand. I'm here, she stammered. I'm at the hospital. She hung up, her legs moving before her mind caught up, carrying her to the trauma bay. The emergency room was a sea of noise. Beeping machines, urgent voices, the clatter of gurneys. Where are they? Emily's voice cracked as she searched the chaos. Linda materialized, seizing her arm in a tight grip. Emily, come with me. Her friend's face was serious, her eyes not meeting Emily's. She guided her to a curtained corner at the rear of the trauma bay. 3 gurneys lined up side by side, each containing a figure wrapped in white sheets, attached to IVs and monitors. Emily's breath froze as she drew nearer, her body shaking. On the first gurney, Michael was lying, his face disfigured by cuts. His right arm bent at an unnatural angle in a splint. After him was Sarah, whose normally bright face was puffy, a jagged cut on her forehead. And at the far end of the last gurney, Noah, her lovely boy, appeared so little, a bandage tightly bound around his head. They were all 3 unconscious, their chests rising and falling artificially. Michael, Sarah, Noah, Emily whispered, her voice breaking as she stretched out. Dr. Thompson, chief physician, moved before her, his hands firm but soothing. Emily, you have to remain calm. It isn't safe for you here now. Why? She shouted, her voice trembling. How serious is it? Dr. Thompson looked down at the floor. We will discuss this when the police arrive. Police? Emily's heart beat faster. Why the police? Isn't this just a crash? The doors to the trauma bay swung open, and 2 officers walked in, a grizzled older man with gray hair and a younger woman with a notebook. Mrs. Carter, I'm Detective Harris, the older officer said, his tone firm. This is Detective Patel. Can we talk in private? Emily nodded, her gaze fixed on her family's still bodies as Linda took her to a tiny consultation room. Dr. Thompson and the detectives followed, the door clicking shut behind them. Detective Harris sat across from her, his expression heavy. Mrs. Carter, I'm sorry to say this, but this accident has suspicious elements. He paused, choosing his words carefully. Witnesses reported a loud argument in the car before it swerved and hit the tree. Emily's mind spun. An argument? About what? Who was fighting? We're not sure yet, Detective Patel said, her tone softer. But we discovered something on your husband's phone. She produced a smartphone from an evidence bag, its screen fractured but glowing. It was Michael's phone, no passcode, the messaging app open. Emily leaned in, her breath hitching as she read the text to Sarah. Tonight, we tell Emily everything. Noah knows now. We can't continue lying, it's destroying him. The words cut like a blade, piercing her. Her ears rang, her vision blurring as the truth came crashing down. Michael and Sarah, her husband and her sister. Noah, her innocent boy, caught in their web of deception. Emily's voice cracked as she whispered. Michael and Sarah, they're together? Detective Harris nodded slowly. Our investigation indicates they were having an affair. It appears your son discovered it, and they might have been discussing it tonight. Emily collapsed into the chair, her energy seeping away like water through a sieve. The late nights, Sarah's unexpected radiance, Noah's silent anguish, it all explained itself now. "How are they?" she was able to say, her words nearly inaudible. Dr. Thompson moved forward, his voice professional but gentle. "They're stable at the moment, but all three have head trauma. They're in comas. Noah's is the worst. The next 24 hours are crucial." Emily's eyes stung with tears, her hands trembling as she laid them across her face. "Noah knew," she said softly. "My boy was bearing this in solitude." Detective Patel pushed a crumpled piece of paper across the table. "We discovered this in your son's backpack." Emily unfolded it, her heart breaking at the messy handwriting of Noah. 2 weeks ago, I caught Dad and Aunt Sarah kissing in the garage. Dad told me it's adult business and not to say anything to Mom. I feel ill lying to her. She's always so exhausted from working, and I don't want her to be hurt. What am I supposed to do?" Emily gripped the note, tears racking her. Her 12-year-old son, burdened with a secret that was not his to keep. The betrayal hurt, but Noah's hurt more. "I need to see them," she said, her eyes filled with tears. Dr. Thompson wavered. "Emily, can you really do this?" "I'm a nurse," she said, brushing her eyes. "And they're my family, no matter how much they've hurt me." He nodded, taking her back to the trauma bay. She went to Noah's gurney first, her heart hurting at his little, frail body. She grasped his hand, her thumb sweeping over his icy fingers. "Mom's here, Noah," she whispered. "You're so tough, but you don't have to hold this in anymore. Just wake up for me, okay?" Then she stood beside Sarah's bed, looking at the sister she'd loved her entire life. The sister who'd stabbed her in the back. "Why, Sarah?" she whispered, her voice shaking with pain. "We were sisters. We shared everything. How could you?" At last, she stood before Michael, whose face was deathly pale in the bright hospital lights. 10 years, she whispered. "We had a life, a house, a son. Was everything a lie?" No response issued, only the monotonous beep of the machines. Emily turned to Dr. Thompson. "Let me know when the second Noah indicates any sign of arousal. I must be present for him." A week later, Emily sat beside Noah's bed, morning sunlight streaming through the hospital blinds. Her son remained in a coma, but the doctors were guardedly optimistic. His brain waves were stabilizing, and his fingers would twitch occasionally. Emily had taken time off work, unable to abandon his bedside. Her co-workers rallied round her, leaving meals, books, and a teddy bear for Noah. Linda was a constant presence, making sure Emily didn't collapse under the weight of it all. "You need to eat," Linda said, pushing a sandwich toward her. "I'll stay with Noah." Emily shook her head, her eyes fixed on her son. "I need to be here when he wakes." Michael and Sarah had woken up 3 days ago, moved to separate rooms. Emily hadn't visited them, her heart too raw to face their excuses. But today, for Noah's sake, she needed answers. She kissed Noah's forehead. "I'll be back soon, buddy," she said softly, then steeled herself and left the room. The hospital hallway felt endless, each step heavier than the last. Anger and grief battled inside her, but she forced herself to stay calm like the nurse she was. She needed the truth not just for her, but for Noah. She hesitated outside Michael's door, her hand shaking as she knocked. Michael reclined inside, his arm encased in a cast, his face bruised but awake. Sarah occupied a chair beside him, her face still creased with a receding bruise, her eyes cast downward. Guilt washed over their faces when they saw Emily. "Emily," Michael began, his voice raspy. "Let me explain." "Explain what?" Emily's tone was frost, slicing through the air. "How you betrayed me with my own sister." Sarah's eyes overflowed with tears. I'm so sorry," she breathed. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." Emily's fists balled, her heart conflicting between anger and the desire to know. But she wasn't yet prepared to hear their apologies. Emily's words shuddered with rage, her hands trembling as she confronted Michael and Sarah in the hospital room. "You did this to Noah," she snapped, her voice razor-sharp. "How could you make our son bear your deceptions?" Michael's face folded in, his tears flowing down his battered cheeks. "It wasn't supposed to work out this way," he muttered. 20 days ago, Noah returned from school early. He caught us in the kitchen. Together. Emily's heart turned over, envisioning her 12-year-old son stuck in the doorway, witnessing his father and aunt's betrayal of her. Michael's voice cracked as he went on. "He overheard us laughing, saw us kissing. I told him it was business for adults, pleaded with him not to say anything to you." Sarah's head dropped low, her words a near whisper. "We never wanted him to know, Em. It destroyed us to see him suffer." Emily's eyes blazed, her thoughts running back over Noah's recent coldness, his lost appetite, his difficulty with schoolwork. He'd been drowning in guilt, torn between his love for her and fear of shattering their family. On the night of the crash, Noah had reached his breaking point. In the car, he'd confronted Michael and Sarah, his voice shaking with anger. "I'm telling Mom everything," he'd shouted. Michael, desperate, had tried to calm him, his hands gripping the wheel too tightly. Sarah had interrupted, begging, but their voices rose, covering the car in commotion. The fight spiraled out of control, and Michael's concentration wavered, just for a moment. The car skidded, tires squealing, and crashed into a tree along the road. Emily's voice was frosty, slicing through their alibis. "Your selfishness destroyed Noah. All he asked was to keep me safe." Michael wept, his cast arm shaking. "I don't deserve forgiveness. I never intended to hurt him, or you." Sarah's tear-streaked face came up, her eyes beseeching. "Is Noah all right? Tell me, Em, please." Emily's jaw clenched. "He's still in a coma, but they say there's hope. No thanks to the two of you." A heavy silence filled the room, the burden of their shame palpable. Michael's voice broke as he asked, "What about the police?" Emily's eyes hardened. "They're labeling it an accident. You're careless driving. Your phone's message to Sarah is recorded." Michael's head fell, shame scribbling on his face. "I've talked to an attorney," Emily reported, her voice matter-of-fact. "I'm divorcing you. You'll pay for child support and whatever Noah requires to get over this." "It's not about money," Michael whispered. "I know I ruined our marriage, your trust." Sarah's voice trembled. "Em, we're finished. It was a mistake, a bad one. I never wanted to hurt you." Emily stared at Sarah, memories of their childhood flashing. Shared secrets, late-night giggles, Sarah's tears of joy at her wedding. Now those memories felt tainted, like a photo fading in the sun. "You chose this," Emily said, her voice steady despite the pain. "Now I'm choosing a new life for me and Noah." Without another word, she turned and left, her footsteps echoing in the sterile hallway. She huddled in the hospital corridor outside, her breathing harsh, struggling to keep back the tears. Grief and fury gnawed at her, but she struggled to concentrate. She must be tough for Noah. She went back to his room, her heart pounding as she flung open the door. A cluster of doctors stood by Noah's bed, their faces alight with hopeful reserve. Dr. Thompson glanced around, a rare smile piercing his strict demeanor. "Emily, he's awake." Her breath hitched, and she hurried to Noah's bedside. His blue eyes, bright as a summer sky, were open, weak but aware. "Noah," she breathed, grasping his hand, her voice choked with relief. "It's Mom. Can you hear me?" Noah nodded weakly, his voice a hoarse whisper. "Mom." The doctors went about their checks, monitors beeping softly in the background. Dr. Thompson remained behind, his voice calm yet optimistic. "It's a miracle, Emily. No serious brain damage. With rehab, he's got a good chance at full recovery." Joyful tears poured down Emily's face as she tightened her grip on Noah's hand. "Thank you," she wept. Once the doctors had departed, Emily sat next to Noah, smoothing back his hair. He regarded her, his eyes full of remorse. "Mom, I'm sorry I didn't explain to you about Dad and Aunt Sarah." Emily's heart hurt, but she smiled gently, touching his cheek. "You didn't do anything wrong, sweetheart. I'm sorry you had to bear that by yourself. But we're fine now." She breathed slowly, trying to phrase her words. "Dad and Aunt Sarah are okay, but things will be different. We're going to be our own family now, just you and I. We'll be tough together." Noah's eyes blinked, but he held her hand hard. "Just be with me, Mom," he whispered. Emily drew him into a soft hug, her heart full. "We will always be a team, Noah. Always." A year passed, sunlight streaming into the snug kitchen of their Chicago apartment. Emily cooked pancakes on the stovetop, the sugary scent wafting through the air. Noah's laughter rang from the living room where he played a video game, his spark back to its vigor. He'd recovered fully, thriving at his new school, his smile wider than ever. It had been a year of challenges, a divorce filing, downsizing to a smaller home, Noah's physical therapy, and therapy to mend his heart. But they'd weathered it all, step by step, closer than ever. Emily had reduced her hospital hours, loving every moment with Noah. "Mom, are Ethan and Lucas going to the park today?" Noah yelled, bounding into the kitchen. Ethan Carter, a friendly pediatrician from Noah's school PTA, and his 10-year-old son Lucas were frequent visitors to their world now. "Yeah, they'll meet us there," Emily replied, tousling Noah's hair. "They're awesome," Noah smiled, snagging a pancake. "Oh, I received a letter from Dad." Michael had relocated to Seattle, working on himself through therapy for alcoholism and guilt. He wrote Noah each month, brief letters of apology and news, even phoning occasionally. The father-son relationship was broken, but Michael was making an effort, and Noah was gradually opening up. "He's volunteering at a youth center now," Noah said in a neutral tone. Emily nodded, her heart less heavy than it once had been. "That's a good step." The doorbell rang and Emily opened the door to see Sarah there, holding a miniature bouquet of daisies. Can I come in?" she asked, sounding nervous. Sarah had finished a recovery program and now worked at a women's community center, assisting others in rebuilding their lives. She'd written Emily letters throughout the months, each one laden with remorse. Emily had begun responding recently, brief notes to begin with, then a hesitant telephone call last week. "Noah, someone's here," Emily called out. Noah paused, then came over, dispensing a rapid hug. "Hey, Aunt Sarah," he smiled hesitantly. "How's school?" Sarah inquired, her eyes shining with guarded hope. Emily retreated to the kitchen, making coffee, listening to their conversation. Rebuilding with Sarah was no picnic. Trust was a slow ascent, but they were attempting. Emily was amazed by her own resilience, how what had seemed unforgivable to her now seemed achievable. That evening, while Noah was sleeping, Emily sat at her desk with her diary open. Today Sarah came by. "I couldn't have envisioned this a year ago. The scars remain, but we're getting on. Life deals you curves, but it's about having the nerve to continue." She looked out of the window, the Chicago skyline lit under a crescent moon. Tomorrow was a new beginning, and she and Noah would meet it hand in hand, powerful as ever. Betrayal runs deep, but real power comes from rebuilding what is most important, yourselves and those you care about. If you were swept up by this story of heartbreak and redemption, like and share it with your friends. Subscribe to Revenza Tales and leave a comment below. Let us know what you think for more epic tales.